Hey, it's Clay. Welcome to another video. This is going to be a golf swing analysis submitted to the golf subreddit by iamtovu. So thank you for checking it out, Tovu. Hope you get something out of this swing analysis. If you guys enjoy this, please consider subscribing for more golf content like this. Let's go ahead and watch iamtovu's swing one time through. So he's complained that he's experiencing some troubles with his slicing. Now, I drew this line here just for the sake of giving us an idea of where the ball is traveling. If you see right here, I just drew a line where the ball starts, and you can see it right about here. It is definitely fading back. This one appears to be a little bit of a fade, but I'm going to talk about turning a fade into a draw. What are some of the things that you need to do? So, for starters, let's talk about setup. Setup is critically important, and then a lot of the things that you do at setup really set into motion what's going to happen in the swing. And I think a couple of things to keep in mind is, so you want to think about your foot line, which you are indicating with this club is very good. But I think that sometimes people also forget to align the rest of their body with their feet. And by that I mean that you also want to align your knees, your hips, and your shoulders. So all of those lines should be kind of equal with one another, okay? And in your situation, I guess I can't see your front knee, and that could just be due to the camera. But I would take a look at how you are positioning your upper body. I'd kind of like to see this shoulder come down a little bit and this elbow come down a little bit. It almost looks to me like you're, in the golf scene when you grip the club, your trail hand. I apologize. I'm sometimes not used to referring to lefties, so no discrimination here. But your trail hand sits lower, so that naturally is going to cause your spine to be on a little bit of a tilt. Obviously to have one of your hands sit lower, it's going to cause some tilt back, and that's totally fine. And then typically you would also see that the elbow kind of sits beneath or underneath a little bit more. And basically what I would encourage you to do is to try to drop this shoulder and elbow so that it's a little bit more underneath, which will help maybe to close off your shoulder line and match it with your toe line, okay? Now, I can't really see it from this camera angle, but, for example, right here, I can see your front shoulder appearing a little bit. And it just kind of appears to me that, like, right in about here, where we can just barely see it. To me, this would be about where your shoulders, and look, you can already see how your arm has kind of gone from being on top, right? You can see a little bit of your front arm underneath to now they're pretty well in line with one another. So I would try to reorient your setup position to reflect that a little bit. Okay, then as we take the club back, there's actually a lot to like about your backswing and takeaway. A lot of good movements here. Nice open hip turn, nice full shoulder turn. Your club is traveling on a pretty good plane. I don't really see you sucking it too far to the inside. And then what I would want to look at is kind of this movement here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line on the shaft. So this is position 3, as traditionally outlined in golf swing analysis. Then if we come back down, so you're pretty close, maybe just slightly more upright. What I'm tending to, whenever I think about slicing, I think swing plane is obviously the first place that you want to go. So let's talk a little bit about the mechanics of a slice and what causes the slice. So you are imparting some sort of side spin. And how do you do that? Well, the way that you do that is that you need to have your club face be open relative to the path that it is traveling on, okay? So if you want to think about the club path, what that would do is if you were looking from the face-on view And if you were trying to draw just if you had like a device that could track the position of the head, right? You can see how it kind of goes on this big arc, right? Starts here, kind of comes down, and then comes back through. It would be a big kind of circular arc movement. And so you can see, that's the path that it is on. So when that path crosses through the ball, the face is open, okay? So there are it's kind of a twofold answer on how do we fix it. Well, for starters, we want to kind of look at the path that the club is taking, okay? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I'm watching to see, are you coming over the top with more of an out to in swing direction? Now, to me, I'm not exactly sure that your path is your primary problem as far as coming out to in. You could be a little bit more shallow, but you're not terrible. I mean, you're basically tracking right on the backswing plane that you had. So I would be a little bit more concerned about your face angle. And maybe some of this too, I'd be better off seeing from the face-on view. So what I would want to look at is how, what it kind of looks like to me is that you're releasing the hands pretty early and then kind of trying to drag it across the ball in such a way that you're swiping kind of if you look here in this position, the club is kind of cutting across, this way. So my thought for you would be to take a look at how are you squaring the club face. So step one is I would want to look at your grip. Now the video is a little bit blurry, so I can't really see the position of the club face, but there's a couple things I would maybe look at. So first of all would be just strengthening your grip one knuckle. And you can Google how to grip positioning, and that'll give you a lot of information on how to strengthen your grip. You're basically rotating the butt of the club in your position. If your right hand is holding it, you'd want to rotate your right hand to the left in a counterclockwise manner, just a little bit so you can see one more knuckle on your right hand at address. And then a second way to do it is you can do what is called the motorcycle move, and that would involve some point in the swing, you are going to actually take this left wrist and you're going to perform as if you're going to rev a motorcycle. If you're taking your wrist and you're flexing it so it bows out, just a tiny little bit of that movement here in the downswing would help a lot. And if you look at the swings, a lot of PGA Tour professionals, Dustin Johnson, Jon Rahm, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, they all have pretty similar movement as far as that their left wrist is going to have a little bit of bow, and that's going to help the club face to shut. And then the last thing that I would recommend is kind of more of a sequencing thing. And again, I can't see from the face-on view to see how are you weight shifting, but what I would recommend is that you just take your club, and what I want you to feel is just take some kind of baseball-like practice swings. And the goal that you're trying to achieve is you're trying to feel that the club head passes over the hands. Okay, so it's not quite like a casting motion, and I'm not instructing you to cast, but I want you to feel a stronger release with your trail hand. And at this position, the club, your trail hand, the left hand, would be rolling over top. Okay, it's referred to as supination, which is basically just turning your forearm. And I want you to get a feel with some baseball-like practice swings. And what I'm going to do is, if you refer to Ben Hogan supination and look up an images search, this image right here, this is what I'm referring to. Okay, so just take the club out in front of you and feel this. And again, this is all really done in the forearms. And if you'll note, he does have some bow in that left wrist, which is that motorcycle movement I was talking about. but you're basically, if you look here, this is another way to describe it. Okay, so that's exactly, for you, for a left-hander, it would look like this, right? So you're holding the club with your right hand, and you're rolling your forearm out in front of you. So you're getting the club head to pass over in a more of a closing position. Okay, so I would recommend some of that. You need more of that movement in your release, just in this position right here, to get that club face closing, to make sure that it is square. Okay, so kind of a combination of all of those things will help get the club face closed. And then again, as far as your club path is concerned, like I said, I don't necessarily feel that you're getting the club into a particularly over the top or a steep position. Sometimes the instruction would be to encourage people to shallow. And by shallowing, what we mean is when you get into here, this first little bit of the club, you want to see it moving out, so that when you get to about here, the shaft, so this elbow would come in a little bit closer. Your right shoulder is going to come down, and then the shaft will be more kind of at this position. Here's the club head. So maybe a little bit of that as well, and I will link a drill. Actually, let's watch the drill right now. It's a Monty Scheinblum shallowing drill. It's excellent, and it looks like this. So you take the club back and stop, lay the shaft flat, and this is a critical, you're just doing this with your wrists and hands. So if you notice, he's bowed the left wrist quite severely, and the right wrist is extended back. And this is a very extreme position, but you can see how flat or shallow that shaft is. And then from there, you try to turn and hit the ball. Now, you might have shanked that one, but it's an excellent drill to get a feeling of getting the shaft. Now watch this before and after. This is exactly what you're looking at. Boom. So you see how it gets you to lay the shaft more on a shallow plane, so that the club head will be coming into the ball more in to out, which again will address that face to path movement. So a lot of information there. Start with the setup issue. Get your shoulders a little bit more square, if not closed. And then kind of let's contemplate next, how are you squaring the face? I'd recommend maybe a little stronger grip and maybe a little bit more supination of that Ben Hogan, rolling the wrist over. And then lastly, let's get the path of the club head traveling on a little better path by shallowing it a little bit more. So please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know how you guys enjoy this type of content, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks, bye.